Hey everyone, Stacks here. Welcome back to the channel. Today I am checking out Marauders number 3 with Gerry Duggan writing, Michele Bandini on pencils, and Federico Blee on colors. The book starts with a scenic view of Hellfire Bay, and you get to see where the Red Keep, Blackstone, and the White Palace all reside within this bay. It's there we're introduced again to the Black King, Sebastian Shaw, who is on his way through a portal to go and restore the Shaw bloodline. Where he goes through the portal, he comes out and he is with the Five and Professor Charles Xavier, who is not dead in this book. And looking at it, this book actually happens prior to the events of Marauders 2. Upon arrival, Sebastian Shaw thanks the Five and Charles for accommodating him in this. And Charles makes it clear that, look, if this is going to help you with expediting you getting your good work done, then the Five and myself, we can juggle our schedules to help. And then Sebastian Shaw verifies that, look, this is going to be a complete resurrection, right? And Egg looks over at him, who's formerly Goldballs. Says, yeah, just ask Pyro. And Pyro is sitting over there in a wheelchair, drooling on himself, waving like, hey man, what's going on? Sebastian Shaw looks back over at him and is like, you can't be serious, right? And Egg's like, no, it's okay. He got into Wolverine's stash and he's still sobering up. Sebastian Shaw also asks him, my son won't remember what happened. And Egg confirms with him, no, he won't. And with that, Professor X tells him, prepare to meet your son again. And he busts out of his egg. And Charles Xavier tells him, look, keep calm. Gives him the data download brain dump. Shaw comes forward, says Shinobi. And then straightens up and very formally pulls the welcome Shinobi Shaw. And Shinobi's kind of confused as to what's going on. I guess I would be too if suddenly I wasn't dead anymore. But Shinobi looks at him and asks him, how did I get here? And the first thing that pops into Sebastian Shaw's head is how his son, actually driven to it by Sebastian Shaw hunting him, killed himself by materializing his hand inside of his own head. So with all this going through his head, pun really not intended that time, he says, we can discuss that later. And Shinobi just agrees to it and they head out. From there, Shaw takes him to Blackstone Keep and explains to him how mutants are remaking the Earth and they're beginning with their very own paradise. And once Shinobi goes into his back into his room and gets changed, you realize real quick that Sebastian Shaw had different plans for the seat of the Red King, as we knew from Marauders number 2 when he was absolutely losing his mind when dealing with Emma Frost. Long story short on this is basically Sebastian explains to him everything that is going on with the business, how the Hellfire Corporation fits into the whole idea of Krakoa and how they're working to distribute these drugs and on both the legal side and then the contacts that he manages so that they can help get refugees out of other countries, via the Marauders. While they're continuing this conversation, they actually head through a gate into Central Park, and on their way to a restaurant, they are actually blocked by a couple of individuals wearing these weird X-Men suits, but refusing to let them pass. And Sebastian Shaw kind of explains that there's basically cults that are formed on both sides. Some of them that look at mutants as gods and others that look at them as a menace. Well, these individuals refuse to move, so he asks his son to, hey Shinobi, mind powering me up? Hands him his cane, and of course Shinobi's like, yeah, no problem. Takes it, winds up and just cracks him in the stomach with it. Sebastian Shaw uses his power set. He absorbs that energy and then hits the ground and blows these two humans all over the place. And then they just continue on to dinner. Now, one thing that Sebastian does take some liberties in explaining is how he came into being on the Quiet Council. And he makes it sound as if Emma Frost came to him begging, when in fact Emma Frost just found out that, hey, we need him because of his connections. Now, one thing very clear here is that Shinobi still does not know what to think of his father. He keeps asking him, I'm trying to decide if I still want to kill you. And, I mean, he nearly killed Sebastian Shaw before by phasing into his chest and giving him a heart attack. But it's unclear if he died in that issue because there was an explosion and he ended up coming back, and you kind of assumed that he wasn't dead. He was dead, but then he wasn't. So, but Shinobi tells him, look, I got some business to take care of in Japan, and he just Sebastian just tells him, well, follow me then. And he takes him to a gate, and they go through it, and next thing you know, they're walking into Japan. Once they get there, Shinobi tells him, look, I have business here, and I have to go handle this alone. I'll meet you back on the island in a few days. So Shinobi walks in. He's told by this guy meeting him at the door that the master awaits. And when he arrives, he's greeted, and he's explained to him, like, look, we thought you were possibly even dead, or you were running from your debt. And Shinobi apologizes, explains that, look, my debts aren't forgotten, and I was actually assisting with the formation of the mutant state. I came as soon as I was able, but know that I will continue to be of service, and now you have a friend on Krakoa. His master, whoever this guy is, accepts his apology and says, look, your debts have swelled while you've been away. We'll see you again soon. From there, you get a couple white pages, and basically what you have is Kitty Pryde asking Bishop to step in and to be the Red Bishop. And long story short, Bishop's answer is no. Also worth noting that the ship that the Marauders are using was clocked at going approximately 300 knots per hour. So that's, or do you measure knots in per hour? I don't know. But they're going traveling at 300 knots. 300 knots is like 345 miles per hour. Now, I'm completely okay with somebody like placing their hand in their face to off themselves, but whenever it comes to a boat going 345 miles per hour, my suspension of disbelief starts to break down. I have no idea why. I'm just being really honest about it. From there, we jump to now. So this is after the meeting between Sebastian Shaw and Emma Frost that we saw in Marauders number 2. And it seems that Sebastian Shaw is trying really hard to smooth things over with Shinobi. He actually brings up the fact that, look, I saw Xavier and Apocalypse shake hands recently, and if those two can work together, surely you and I can. Sebastian does have to tell him, look, we have to put our red ambitions for you aside for a little while. Now, don't discard the outfit. The future's still being written, but we kind of got it thrown a speed bump. He tells him, look, you may also choose your own path. That's entirely up to you. And Shinobi looks back over his shoulder. He considers, and he decides he's going to go forward with the Hellfire Corporation. From there, we get into another interesting phase of this whole Krakoa plan against humanity. And Sebastian Shaw explains it by saying that the world is being carved up into yeses and nos, blues and red, black and white. The ones who have and the ones who do not. Now, as he walks down and shows Shinobi this beautiful military frigate, he explains to him that it's time to cash out of the human race. He explains that the top 1% of the population owned 90% of the wealth, and in 5 years the opportunity will be lost. The drugs only prolong their lives for that long. By then, we'll have bled them dry. He asks him, the ship needs a captain and I need an ally. I need you to be the Black Bishop, with more accolades to come. But before Shinobi accepts, he looks at his father and says, I need one thing in advance. You know how I died, don't you? And Shaw looks at him and says, I do. And he flashes back to that scene of his son with his hand in his face. And he looks down and says, it hurts to say, but the White and the Red Queen conspired to murder you. Bum, bum, bum. He's lying, obviously. So my thoughts on this book, I enjoyed this better than Marauders 1 and 2, honestly. I think this issue is mostly set up. It's mostly explaining the relationship between Shinobi and his father, and this father who is I don't know if I'm sure he's manipulating. I mean, he very much is. But he seems like he has some regrets over what happened. It bothers him. And the fact that he's lying to him and how that's probably going to come back and bite him in the tail. Is he lying to him, though, because he's just a bad person and he's going to lie to him because he's Sebastian Shaw? Or is he lying to him because he has a deep-seated regret? I don't know. What do you guys think? Tell me down in the comments. I thought the art in this one was the art wasn't a problem at all. I really like the scenic views at the very beginning. I really can't complain about the art at all. I do think the white pages on this one were kind of silly. You had one that was a text message thread back and forth between Bishop and Kitty Pryde, and then you had the intelligence report, which is not written anything like an intelligence report at all. It's written like in a conversation, like it's just weird. Obviously, if you think a comic book should just be people punching and people smashing, and that you didn't get that in this one. There's hardly any action at all other than a minor insufficient scuffle during one panel that really amounted to nothing. So anyways, I definitely thought this issue was an improvement. We'll see where they go with Marauders number 4. I'll stick around that long and check it out. Guys, if you haven't yet, make sure you hit that subscribe button, leave a like, leave a comment down below, and I appreciate you checking out the video. Guys, that's all I got. Real Comic Stacks out.